Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
I've had a chance to go over the game film, sift through the PFF grades, plenty of Buffalo Bills Week 8 takeaways coming up today on Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Big thank you to everyone out there, as always, for watching and for listening, for following and subscribing. You guys are the best. I appreciate you very much. If you have not yet subscribed, please go ahead and do that now. Subscribe both on the video side and the audio side because there's benefits to doing each. YouTube is going to be the place where you get some exclusive content that you're not going to find anywhere else. Plus, the majority of the episodes are there parked on YouTube. But if you want to make sure you get every single episode in its entirety, including bonus episodes that you'll only get on the audio side, make sure you go to Spotify or Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure you follow Talking Buffalo there. A big victory for the Buffalo Bills on the road, 31-10 over the Seattle Seahawks, a game that kind of felt almost like Geno Smith said it himself. It almost felt like a road game at times for Seattle, despite the fact that they were playing at Lumen Field, their home stadium. Just incredible. Anyway, I got a solid handful of takeaways from this game. I wanted to, as I do every week now, I like to go back and watch the All-22 the next day. And then I like to see what PFF says in terms of their grades and their analysis and kind of form a little bit of more measured opinions as opposed to the night before when Joe from Queens and I do a post-game show. Those are fun, but those are kind of like off the cuff, a little bit in the moment, emotional at times, depending on how the game went. Whereas having this show a full day or so later really gives you an opportunity to have more measured, thought out takes. So that's what we'll be doing on today's show. A couple quick things before I get into the actual takeaways from the game. I want to give a shout out, actually. It's got nothing to do with the Bills, but a shout out to Buffalo born and raised, UB product, very close family friend of mine, Damone Harris, who is with the Atlanta Falcons. He's been on the practice squad for most of the year, but he's now been elevated over the last 2 games with Atlanta, and he had a nice role for the Falcons in a road win Sunday in Tampa. Damone played 33 snaps, 2 tackles, had a big tackle for a loss on a pass to Bucky Irvin, quarterback hurry, 69.5 PFF grade. So a really good day for Damone Harris. I couldn't be happier for him. Nobody works as hard as that kid does. Let's just put it out there. I don't want to call him a kid anymore. He's been in the league since 2018. But shout out to him. That is awesome to see. Continuing to work on the practice squad, putting that work in, get elevated, and not just be on the active roster, but to play a significant contributing role in an Atlanta team victory. You'll love to see that, especially, if you're a fan of all these Buffalo players. Now, it's one thing to go to UB. It's another thing to be born and raised in Buffalo and go to UB, Bishop Timon High School. So very happy, very proud for my guy, Damone Harris. Also want to give props. Talked about this on the show last week. Josh Reed from Channel 4. So going back all the way to August and September, a lot of Bills preview episodes on a lot of podcasts. I did a couple of my own, but I did not hear anybody put themselves out there and say that the Bills were going to start a season 6-2, except for Josh Reed. Sal Capaccio had a live show at Sports City Pizza Pub right before the season started. A bunch of media guests were there, and Sal was asking people for, their season bowl predictions or whatever. And Josh, to his credit, said that the Bills were going to start 6-2, and that is quite literally what they did. Not only did he say the Bills were going to start 6-2, but he actually called the 2 losses that the Bills were going to have as well. So major props to Josh Reed for getting that spot on And then the last thing I want to say, I just alluded to this a handful of minutes ago. I am blown away by Bills Mafia and the way this team travels on the road. That crowd in Seattle on Sunday, maybe because the Bills, they got up early and never really let off the gas, and Seattle never really got in the game, so we didn't get to hear the crowd potentially take over beyond the first series or two for Seattle. But, I mean, holy shit, that crowd, that pro Buffalo Bills Mafia crowd in Seattle, that takeover, that shit is real. And we know that the Bills Mafia travels well wherever they go. But it's one thing when you're like going to Miami, that's like a vacation place. And there's so many Buffalo transplants already in that area. You halfway expect it. A lot of these other stadiums, kind of the same deal. But it's not cheap to fly to Seattle. That is a cross-country trip. And to visually see, whether it was through the broadcast or several media clips that were put up by media people or by some fans, just to see the turnout and how loud those Bills fans were at Lumen Field. I mean, it was just absolutely incredible. You could tell post-game, Josh Allen was almost like kind of taken back, shook a little bit by how vocal and raucous and loud that crowd was. So I don't know, man. I can't speak for 31 other fan bases because I'm not really following them week in and week out. But I find it hard to believe that there's a fan base in the league that travels better than Buffalo Bills fans. Just, again, absolutely incredible. All right, I want to get into some takeaways again. Spent a couple hours on Monday morning watching the All 22 film. Spent some time going through the PFF grades, which are always a mixed bag. Some things you see with PFF and you're like, well, that makes sense. This verifies what you're thinking. And then there's other times where you see these grades, you're like, there's no way. Like, this guy played way better than what this grade indicates. Or conversely, like, I thought this guy had a pretty lousy game, but his grade was pretty good. You see it every week. But I still think it's an interesting exercise how PFF grades and to go through and see them. Not going to be a terribly long show today. Let me start here. Just watching this team play. This was no one specific play, but to me, I don't know if it's the biggest, but it was one of the biggest takeaways I had for sure from this game is just how calm and how poised the Buffalo Bills are. Like, they overcame so many self-inflicted mistakes, and they did so rather easily. Like, when you look at the difference in this game, to me, there's two differences. Number one, I just think the Buffalo Bills, at least on this day, and probably overall, just a better football team than Seattle. But to me, the major difference in this game for me was the fact that Seattle had a ton of blunders and they just couldn't overcome them. Like, they just kept shooting themselves in the foot. Mistakes, compounding mistakes, making things worse on themselves. Whereas the Buffalo Bills, a lot of mistakes of their own, but the difference was they just overcame them. And they did so quite often, like almost borderline effortlessly. But just a lot of mistakes that could have derailed them, and they didn't. I mean, that first touchdown drive, all right, so Seattle gets the ball. They go 3 and out. Greg Rizzo, 2 plays over the course of the first 3 snaps, 2 pass knockdowns. He made his presence felt right away. You force the Seattle to punt. That's what you're hoping for when you win a toss and you defer. Things worked out perfect for the Bills doing a nice defensive stand. So Seattle punts and the Bills take over. That first touchdown drive alone, they had to overcome themselves a lot. Alec Anderson had a holding penalty early in the drive. That wiped out an 11-yard Ray Davis run right away. David Edwards had a false start on that drive. Connor McGovern had a false start, or I'm sorry, he had a holding penalty on that drive. And actually, the whole thing started because Brandon Condrington fielded a punt inside his own 3-yard line. Just crazy, just all around. So many mistakes. Like I said, penalties, a bad decision on a punt return, which could have been a disaster, but it wasn't. And the Bills just overcame it. Again, almost rather easily. So to overcome your own mistakes, so they get on the first drive, and then bam, now you're up 7-0. On their second touchdown drive, early in the drive, Keon Coleman, who had a great game, we're going to talk about him in a few minutes, but he had an offensive pass interference, and the Bills face 2nd and 12 from their own 4. It's only 7-3 at the time. You know, you take a sack in the end zone, a bad play, a turnover, or even just getting stopped, having a punt out of your end zone. Seattle's going to get a short field, an opportunity to score maybe and take the lead, but they're right dead smack in this football game. But Coleman gets a penalty. Again, it's 2nd and 12. The Bills eventually overcome. And in fact, a little bit of luck involved as well, because Josh Allen scrambles on a 3rd down, fumbles, very slippery out. The ball literally slipped out of his hands, but as luck would have it, it hits him, like kind of in his knee, almost like a directional kick beyond the first down marker, and bam, Ty Johnson is right there to fall on the football. So again, that's really not so much overcoming yourself, a little bit of a break, but still, it's just those kind of things that the Bills were able to overcome. The field goal drive to start the second half, right in the third quarter. Very first play, Spencer Brown gets called for holding, and it's 1st and 20 before the Bills even run a play. Still, they end up marching down the field, and they had to settle for a field goal, but it's the point. Again, it's 1st and 20 to start the second half. You're up 14-3. You're on the back end of a double dip, and you got a chance to score and go up at least 2 touchdowns, and that's what the Bills did. They got a field goal. The Spencer Brown holding penalty didn't really affect that drive too much. 13 accepted penalties in this game for Buffalo. They had 2 or 3 that were declined. So 13 accepted penalties for the Bills, 85 yards. That's a lot. 13 penalties for 85 yards. That's terrible. And on other days, that's going to negatively affect you. That could cost you a football game. Worst case, or best case, I should say, 9 times out of 10, that's going to keep the other team in the game. That's going to stop you from, getting out comfortably in front. But on this day, didn't mean shit. It did not matter whatsoever. Defensively, no Terrell Bernard. That's your quarterback, your defense. Over the last couple of weeks, we've seen it. Arguably, your best player on this defense. Your splashy player, your playmaker. He doesn't play with a bad ankle. Who cares? Seattle ends up scoring 10 points, and 7 of those came when the game was long decided in the fourth quarter. Like, a who gives a shit, almost garbage time touchdown. It just, all the obstacles that they had to overcome, they just did it. And most of them on Sunday, they did it with ease. I want to make sure I give credit to the right person here, Sal Capaccio, because he's been talking about this now for a couple of years. A lot of this should be attributed to the continuity of this program. The head coach, the general manager, they're in lockstep. The way these players are developed, we see it time and time and time again. Starters go down, and whoever's next in line, they step up. Now, Braylon Spector is no Terrell Bernard. He certainly did not play like Terrell Bernard, but he didn't cripple them. You see it all the time. Cam Lewis did a admirable job of filling in for Teron Johnson when he had to. Von Miller's missed the last 4 games. At times, you barely even notice it, right? Dwayne Carter's done some really good things. He goes on IR this past week. Eli Anku gets called up from the practice squad, and I thought he had some good reps. So it's like this team just plugs in guys. The continuity matters. Whereas with other teams, you lose a player, something happens, somebody gets hurt, it just seems like things fall apart. I mean, DK Metcalf did not play for Seattle. That's a great player, their best weapon by far. And that offense looked lost without him. Lost. So the continuity of this program just means a ton for the Buffalo Bills. And like I said, to be able to overcome these penalties, they don't get rattled. It's 1st and 20, it's 2nd and 14, whatever. It's 3rd and 9, whatever the situation may be. It just feels like this is a calm football team a confident football team right now. And I thought you really saw plenty of that on Sunday. Next takeaway, and I wanted to put this near the top. Now, these aren't necessarily in order of importance to me, but I feel like as these type of shows go on throughout the week, or at least earlier in the week, you're going to talk about Josh Allen playing great, as you should. You're going to talk about these receivers having really good games. You're going to talk about the game that James Cook had, an unbelievably good game, by the way. All those talking points, and they're all accurate, but I almost feel like the offensive line gets a little bit of a disservice at times. Like they're under the radar, and I know that's just the way it goes in terms of sports talk or sports journalism. It's just not the sexy, attractive thing all the time, at least anyway, to talk about. But man, oh man, this offensive line in Seattle to me was just incredible. And watching the film back, they were even better than I initially thought. So the Bills run for a $167, like 5.4 yards per carry, not counting the 3 bullshit kneel downs by Mitch Trubisky to end the game. The pass protection was unbelievably too. Really, really good. Josh Allen got sacked once, but it got wiped away on a penalty. The other only official sack was him fumbling the ball when he tried taking off running. That's counted officially as a sack. So anyway, just an all-around good performance. And I wanted actually, watching the game back, I want to give some specific love to the center, Connor McGovern. I feel like we don't talk about the job that he's done enough. Certainly not on this show and probably other shows as well. That was a big worry. You can make a case that with all the players the Bills said goodbye to over this offseason, that Mitch Morse was going to be the one that would be the most missed. I mean, Trey White at this point wasn't even a starter anymore. He wasn't one of the best 2 corners. Benford and Douglas were. Jordan Poyer at the end of the road. You signed Taylor Rapp. You bring him in, I think, for that purpose. You knew that was coming. Gabe Davis, once a month, he'd have a big game, disappear the other weeks. I don't think you thought he would be specifically, hard to replace. Leonard Floyd, good player, but you got a healthy Von Miller. You signed Dwan Smoot. I don't think you really expected the loss of Leonard Floyd to be crippling. But losing Mitch Morse to me, and of course, Stephon Diggs. But again, the Bills showed in the whole entire second half of 2023 that they could have success on offense, move the ball, and win without him. Khalil Shakir actually statistically was better than Stephon Diggs. So you knew Stephon was going to be a loss. You just didn't know how much of a loss. But to me, Mitch Morse was the one that I was really, really concerned about. And Connor McGovern going from guard to center, a lot of anxiety there. But I'll tell you what, Connor McGovern has played pretty damn well. In fact, recently he's been more than just pretty damn well. I mean, all the factors in this type of game were in place for Connor McGovern to have a nightmare type of football game. You're on the road, a loud, large crowd, which again, at least at the beginning of the game, is as fun as Bills Mafia is and the kind of the takeover later in the game. This was still a predominant Seattle crowd. So you got a large ass crowd, a road game, the West Coast, and most importantly, the conditions. Heavy, heavy rain. Like this could have been, 2-3 bad Connor McGovern snaps and, the offense goes awry because of that. But it didn't happen. In fact, it was the other way around. Connor Williams was the one having issues. He airmailed a snap to Geno Smith 20 yards over his head. His right foot got stuck or tripped out on Geno Smith on that 4th down play. That's the kind of shit that I think you might have expected from Connor McGovern, but it didn't. This guy's just been solid. Not spectacular, but solid. 63.1 PFF overall grade, a 66.3 run grade, a 70.5 blocking grade, which is really, really good. Per PFF, did not give up a hit or pressure on Josh Allen. So I want to make sure that Connor McGovern gets the flowers, so to speak, that he deserves, because I really, truly thought he was, the entire line was good. But to me, we always talk about Dawkins. We always talk about Spencer Brown. But I felt like Connor McGovern was the anchor, the MVP of this offensive line on this day. As a whole, per PFF at least anyway, team to give up a quarterback hit. Again, Brown, it was Spencer Brown. He got beat for a sack early in the game, but he got wiped out by a defensive holding call. Dawkins and Brown, I thought, did a really good job of, Derek Hall and Boye Mafe are two really good, young, talented edge rushers that had the ability to have a big impact on the game. And that just was not the case at all. Not the case at all. And then the other two guys, the guards, they were good. Not great, but they were solid. Again, PFF grades to me can be bullshit at times. And I hate saying that because then I turn around and use it to my advantage when I want it to fit my narrative. I understand that. But David Edwards only had a 51.4 PFF grade. And I thought he played considerably better than that. And Osiris Torrance only had a 57.6 grade. I thought he was pretty good. Now, he was charged with 3 quarterback hurries. But all in all, I thought he had a really solid game. Anyway, I'm going to take a real quick break, come back, talk some Joe Brady. We're getting these receivers and a little bit of defense as well. All right, I'm back here going over my biggest week 8 takeaways. The Buffalo Bills just laid one on the Seattle Seahawks, an impressive 31-10 victory that's got the Bills in firm control of the AFC East. That's incredible. We'll talk about that here at the end of the show. Quickly, I'm really impressed with Joe Brady. I talked about it on the show last night. I've tweeted about it a lot. I'm going to throw that out there as well. 28, at least from my math. Now, maybe I was wrong, but I went through the play-by-play, and when I was watching, I was kind of keeping a chart watching the film. The Bills had 28 first down plays, not counting the last 3 drives. The last 3 drives, they were just protecting a 3-touchdown lead, and nobody gives a shit. In fact, they weren't even showing to look like they might throw the football. But anyway, not counting the last 3 drives, the Bills on first down threw the ball more than they ran it. 17 passes, 11 runs for the Bills on first down. This is what I've been waiting for almost all season. Some imagination, some sense of creativity, a big form of unpredictability with the Bills offense. It has just felt like most of the season that let's just run the ball on first down to James Cook. Like, not even showing like it might not be a run. It was just like you can see it coming a mile away, running the ball on first down time and time again. And I don't have the numbers, the math for the season to back this up right now, but my sense tells me that the Bills have been facing way too many second and longs than they needed to. It just felt like if you're a defense, you can have 8, maybe even 9 guys up in the box because the Bills are just going to continuously run the football on first down. That stopped being the case in the second half of the Tennessee game. And I said it then, I wondered out loud, I should say, last week's show, when Amari Cooper caught that slant pass for a touchdown, the Bills go up 14-10. And from there, it felt like the offense has changed. Like a combination of Joe Brady having more confidence in the passing game with Cooper there and, guys kind of having their roles redefined as pass catchers. I think Josh Allen just having a growing sense of confidence in his group. But whatever it may be, it just seems like since then, the Bills have been slinging the ball a lot more. Josh Allen finished with over 300 yards against the Titans. First time all season, I believe. Josh Allen threw for, 283 yards in Seattle here on Sunday. Just a more confident offense, a more unpredictable offense. I love throwing the ball on first down. Now, there's a time and place to run the football. When the Bills had that interception, Austin Johnson got the pick. I tweeted about it. I said, this is the drive where James Cook should take the heart out of the Seattle defense. That's quite literally what he did. They scored. James Cook got the touchdown. James Cook had over 100 yards rushing. A great game for him. There's time and a place. I'm not saying I don't want to see the Bills ever run the football. You got to be balanced. But that's the thing. Being balanced doesn't mean being predictable. So to pass the ball 17 times on first down, to me, that's something I love to see. I saw signs of it, like I said, last week in Tennessee, and I was really, really happy with what I saw from Joe Brady. This offense is different now. It feels like the weapons are not just here, because all of them, except for Cooper, have been here. It's just deploying them the right way. And it was a good sign for me to see Joe Brady have success with these play calls against Seattle. And I don't think Seattle's got the best defense, but and they kind of suck defending the run, and James Cook carved him up. So did Ray Davis a little bit as well. But pass defense, they're okay. Again, they had a couple of edge rushers who get after you. Certainly some talent in that secondary, and the Bills just felt like they were exposing them. One hit on Keon Coleman, because holy shit, dude. Keon Coleman is a straight up bully. He's a straight up bully out there. That's what he is. 5 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown. All right. And of course, that first touchdown, I mean, he took the ball as a Rick Woolen just ripped that ball. That's a good corner, by the way. Just ripped that ball from him and said, "No, this is mine." That was a nice catch. He had another really nice catch too it was a 29-yard pass play. Josh Allen rolled out to the left, saw him, hit him. He got his legs cut out from under him. That's a tough catch to make. Hit the ground hard, and he held on to the football. Did have a drop. But all in all, the pass catching was impressive. The one after catch, very impressive. And that's been a thing now with I shouldn't even say a thing. That's become a trait for Keon Coleman. That stuff's fun to watch. But for me, especially going back and watching this film, dude, his run blocking has been unbelievably good. I had to go on PFF, and I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw it. 90.8 PFF block grade for Keon Coleman. For a wide receiver, or maybe just anybody, that's one of the highest pass blocking grades I think I've ever seen. I mean, there was that one play, of course, where he blocked number 29, like 20 yards past the sideline. I got a penalty for that, but the guy from Seattle retaliated, so no harm, no foul. But there was 2 other times on running plays with James Cook where Keon Coleman just absolutely flatted the defender. One of them was Woolen. Woolen had a really tough day with Keon Coleman. I'm talking about a physically rough day, but Keon Coleman knocked him on his ass. It was only went for like a 2 or 3 yard gain for James Cook, but whatever. It was the point. He knocked him, he pancaked him, knocked him on his ass. And then there was another one. I think it was a safety, Julian Love. He went out and got him, and this was like out a 12-yard run from James Cook. But anyway, the hands, the ability to make contested catches, the back shoulder catches, ripping a football away, running after the catch. Seems like he's getting better running his routes. He's knowing where to be on the field, scramble drills, finding soft spots, things like that. And now you add in the blocking. This is a player I'm just blown away with. I am blown away by the growth right now of Keon Coleman. And I was concerned a little earlier in the season, that week 3 game. So we find out Keon, if you're watching the game, you didn't know it before the game started, but he doesn't get a snap in the first quarter. We're like, well, what the hell's going on? Why is Keon Coleman not even out there? Turns out he got benched for the first quarter for being late to meeting, I don't know, singular, plural, whatever. But clearly a message was sent that night. And whatever that message is, he took that message, because he's become somebody who we thought might be best case, give you some Gabe Davis traits. He's becoming a player that's as good or better than Gabe Davis right now as a rookie. Like, you were like, Keon Coleman, ideally, you want him to grow into a really strong wide receiver too. And, you hope he's a Gabe Davis type. I kind of am blowing past that right now. Now I look at Keon Coleman and I'm like, the way this kid is playing, the way he's growing, eventually the ceiling went from Gabe Davis to like T. Higgins for me. I think he could be that good of a number 2. Hell, technically, maybe a number 1. Who the hell knows? But whether you want to call him a 1, whether you want to call him a 2, whatever it is that you want to call it, blown away by the growth of Keon Coleman, and just watching him on film, the way he was run blocking, the aggressiveness. Hungry kid, man. A very hungry kid, and you love to see that. Khalil Shakir, too. He's a really key part of this offense. Khalil Shakir makes this offense the best that it could be. 9 catches for $107. He's had 38 targets this season, and he's caught 36 passes. That's almost borderline stupid. 38 targets, 36 catches, man. I mean, god damn. He's on pace right now, 77 catches, 895 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So he's just under 900 yards on pace right now. And mind you, he's missed a game. He did not play against Houston, and he played against the Jets, but he could barely even move. He had like 2 catches for 19 yards. He was limping all over the place. So yeah, to be at a pace that he has right now is just incredible. And he does so many things so well. He can take that bubble screen, shifty, make you miss. He turns 1 or 2 yards into 7 yards. He's obviously really good in open space. He doesn't drop anything. He makes guys miss. His yards after the catch is outstanding. If you go by advanced metrics like DVOA and other stuff like that, he's right among the most productive receivers right now in the NFL. I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. To me, he's Cole Beasley, but he's got more juice. He's got that extra gear. He's got Cole Beasley size, Cole Beasley route running skills, Cole Beasley hands, but then he's got that extra gear to make you miss, to turn upfield, to get a lot more yards and just, catch the ball, get hit, fall down. It's just amazing. He's been so solid. A couple snack out things that really stood out to me. Keon Coleman played 83% of the snaps. Matt Collins, this is the big one. Matt Collins, just 46%. That is, that is Matt Collins' lowest snap share of the season, 46%. Keon Coleman's was the second highest. I think week 2 in Miami played like 91% of the snaps. But to me, the big thing, the big shift that you could see right now is Matt Collins, when you're playing Baltimore, and especially that Houston game, he was the primary receiver, getting twisted like a pretzel, trying to track down long balls is borderline, embarrassing for him that game anyway. But he's went from that to a guy who has 1 target now in the last 2 games. That's it. Matt Collins has only gotten 1 target in the last 2 games. Conversely, Keon Coleman has had 14 targets in the last 2 games. In fact, over the last 2 weeks, Keon Coleman's got a $195 receiving yards, which is actually 3rd most in the entire NFL. Only Terry McLaurin and Justin Jefferson have more receiving yards in the NFL than Keon Coleman has over the last 2 weeks. So between Coleman and Shakir, you're really starting to see the development of the Bills' offensive passing attack. Of course, with Amari Cooper, who had 1 catch for 3 yards, 1 target, who gives a shit? That means nothing. The fact that Amari Cooper could have 1 target for 3 yards and this offense could still look really efficient, to me, is a product of a lot of things. Again, Joe Brady with the play calling and the way that these weapons are being deployed, what their roles are, how they're being used. Amari Cooper can still affect the game, even if he's only got 1 catch for 3 yards. Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, they both played 54% of the snaps, 41 snaps each. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but some people might complain and be like, I need Dalton Kincaid out there a lot more. To me, I would simply say, work smarter, not harder when it comes to Dalton Kincaid. I'm good with 54% of the snap share for him. If he's going to get 4 to 5 catches a game, he got 4 catches for 31 yards. Didn't really need him too much in this game. He still had a couple nice plays too. So I like that. Defensively, I love this. Ed Oliver played 75% of the snaps. Jaquan Jones, 53%. Austin Johnson, 29%, who had that interception. And then Anku, who came up with the practice squad, 25%. I like that percentage with the defensive tackles. I hated when Sean McDermott would have 4 defensive tackles that all had near 50% of the snaps. Ed Oliver, I get on him sometimes, and rightfully so. He's got to play better in the biggest games. But week to week, he is far and away your best defensive tackle. That's what he should be playing. 65, 70, 75% of the snaps like he did on Sunday. So I really like to see that. 2 more things here, then we're going to get out. The Bills' defensive backs, their ability, this stood out to me on film. this week. The Bills' defensive backs' ability to tackle really stood out. Teron Johnson had at least 3 tackles, like at the line or near the line of scrimmage. He's so good. God, he's so good. I'm not telling you something that you don't know, but man, oh man, he is so good at bringing guys down. He's so good at so many things. He's so good at coverage. He is timely interceptions, but he is so good at filling gaps and closing speed and tackling. It's just unbelievable. Marcel Douglas had a couple really nice plays. He had a really nice open field tackle on Kenneth Walker. It was for a 2-yard loss when it was 1st and 10 on Seattle's second drive, the first play. That helped lead to a punt. So he almost had a pick too. But yeah, just really good open field tackling from Marcel Douglas. Christian Benford's always good with tackling. He's also good with just defending the pass, period. Through this game, by the way, so we're 8 games in, Christian Benford has given up 16 catches for 142 yards for the season. For the season. Insanity right there. Tyler Lockett, who I thought would be a big, big part of the offense, 1 catch for 9 yards. And I know that Christian Benford was on him plenty. And like I said, he's always good with tackling. He's in the top 5 or 6 right now in PFF for the season among corners and tackling. I'll tell you what, too, Damar Hamlin had a nice game. He had a really nice open field tackle. Noah Fant caught a pass on the sidelines. Had some room to move, but Damar Hamlin closed real quick, made a really nice tackle in the open field. I thought Noah Fant was going to be a problem for the Bills, but he only had 3 catches for 22 yards. And, you know, all the other bullshit that happened last week, social media and stuff involving Damar Hamlin, whatever about that. But I said it last week. I thought he played good against Tennessee. I thought it was his best game of the season. And I thought Damar Hamlin had a really nice, solid, sound football game again in Seattle. There was one play, and it wasn't nothing special, but just him not getting fooled and playing the gap that he was supposed to play. Seattle was inside the 4-yard line. I don't remember if it was first or second down, but he made the initial hit, brought the guy down. It was, I can't remember who else made the play. But anyway, Damar Hamlin was there. He made the play. Long story short, Seattle never got in the end zone. So I thought Damar Hamlin, for a second consecutive week now, had a nice game. I really do. Conversely, not counting the penalties, if you had to pick one thing about this game for the Bills, watching it live, watching it on film, looking at the grades, the combination of all that stuff, I'd say the one thing that concerns me a little bit was Dorian Williams. He struggled pretty badly on Sunday, especially the first half, man. 28.6 PFF grade. That was the lowest on the team by anyone, by a mile, too. 28.1 coverage grade, 33.2% tackling grade, gave up 42 yards in the passing game, 3 for 3 targets. He just had a rough day. I mean, the stuff that you've seen earlier, like especially last year with Dorian Williams, maybe a little bit earlier this season, getting fooled by misdirection, getting lost in space, losing where he's supposed to be in pass coverage. That reared its ugly head a couple times. One for sure. I think 2, actually. Pretty weak arm tackles that he missed. Things like that. It was a bad game for Dorian Williams. Let's just call it what it is. It was a bad afternoon. I'm not down on him. I'm certainly not out on him. He's a good player. I wonder how much he benefits after watching him on Sunday. I wonder how much he benefits for having Terrell Bernard out there with him. Like I said, I'm not down whatsoever on Dorian Williams. I'm confident he'll bounce back. But the things that you worried about with him earlier in the season, this was the kind of game where if you do have things that you worry about with him, this is why. Talked about a little bit last week on the show. People out there who have said, the way Matt Milano, by the time he gets back, he'll be 100%, and he's been injured a couple times. Maybe Dorian Williams still starts. I was like, nope. No. Matt Milano's starting. If he's healthy enough to be active and play, he's starting. And this kind of game just puts an exclamation point on that even more. So again, I'm not really bashing Dorian Williams. It was an afternoon for him to surely to forget. But again, The way this team just picks each other up, your linebacker could have a pretty crappy day, and it just didn't matter because the defense was still really, really good. To conclude here, the Bills have as many wins right now through 8 games as this entire AFC East does combined. That's just so wild to me. Like, even if the Bills were 8-0 right now, if the Bills were 8-0 and they were undefeated, just like the Kansas City Chiefs are, I would still consider that stunning because that would mean, and going back to August and September, that would mean that the Jets in Miami were both at 500 and that New England might be winless. I'd still be stunned even at that right now. But the fact that the Bills are 6-2 and the race is almost over. Like, I think the Jets are completely toast. I think they're done. They are donezo. They're 2-6. They're done. They're not coming back from that. That team's going to implode even more. I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Rodgers doesn't last a year, whether it's an injury, like a legit injury, or whether it's a injury using air quotes that makes him come off the field and not play anymore. You're well on your way to that happening. Miami, I won't go. Miami is 95% done. They're 2-5. That defense is a disaster. The offensive line is not good. Even with Tua, I mean, the offense is obviously much more dangerous with Tua, but there's just too many holes on that team. They're soft. They lack leadership. And I think their head coach is extremely overrated. They will be done at 4:30 p.m. on Sunday if they don't find a way to play some defense and show some heart, some grit, some toughness against the Buffalo Bills. The Jets are done. Miami's season right now is on life support. And again, it just stuns me. It stuns me that the Bills, that when you go back to the start of the season, you look at the schedule, that 3-game road trip, Miami on the road, a tough Jacksonville team, at least coming into the season, that has played really, really good against the Bills, a tough road game in Seattle. If you told me the Bills would be 6-2, I could not have signed up for that fast enough. But that's only the half of it. The Bills are 6-2, and Miami and the Jets both suck. It's stunning to me. It really is. Things, for the most part, could not be going better as we speak for the Buffalo Bills. That said, I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate on the show tomorrow. Matt Moran from SB Nation is going to join me. And like I said, we're going to get a little bit nitpicky, but all's not perfect with the Buffalo Bills. There's certainly things to be concerned about now and going forward. So I'm going to turn heel on you guys a little bit tomorrow. We're going to go over some things that are not going well or some things that we need to be concerned about going forward. Like I said, a little bit of devil's advocate tomorrow here on Talking Buffalo. But anyway, that's going to do it for today. Again, one more time, big thank you for watching, for listening. If you have not subscribed, please go ahead and do that right now. We'll be back. Brand new show. Matt Warren joins me tomorrow.